Here is your practice test for adding and subtracting fractions. Let's go. Pay very close attention to the problems because sometimes the denominators are going to be the same and you can just add or subtract. Sometimes they're not going to be the same and you're going to have to make an equivalent fraction. Plus, you have to pay attention to the operations. Sometimes you have to add and sometimes you need to subtract. So be careful. Directions. Add or subtract the fractions, find a common denominator, and simplify the answer if needed. So we want to get the smallest answer possible for all of these on our practice test. And we can do that and also use a calculator to check our work and make sure we're good. So let's start with 82 hundredths minus 1/10. I am subtracting, so I know my denominators have to be the same. 100 and 10 are not the same. So I need to think of a common denominator. 10 times what gets me to 100? I know 10 times 10 will get me to 100. So if I change 1/10 and multiply it by a whole to get 100 in the denominator, I know 10 times 10 equals 100. To make an equivalent fraction, I multiply by a whole, so that means I have to also have a 10 in the numerator. 1 times 10 equals 10, and then I get 10 hundredths. So 82 hundredths I didn't change. I'm subtracting 10 hundredths now because I changed the fraction 1/10 to the equivalent fraction 10 100ths. So now I can subtract 82 minus 10. I can use mental math for that and get 72 in the numerator. I'm subtracting, so my denominators stay the same, and I get 100 for my denominator. I need to simplify this to get it smaller, so I can divide by the whole 2 over 2 since 72 and 100 are both multiples of 2. When I do that, I get an equivalent fraction of 36 50ths. You should notice again, 36 ends in a 6, so it's a multiple of 2. 50 ends in a 0, so it's a multiple of 2. So I can make it smaller again by dividing by the whole, 2 over 2. 36 divided by 2 equals 18. 50 divided by 2 equals 25. Okay, so I could divide the numerator by 2 again because 18 is a multiple of 2. I can't with 25 because multiples of 2 don't end in 5. I can't think of any other numbers that I could multiply that would work for the top and the bottom to get a whole number. So I'm guessing this is my simplified answer, but I just want to double check that on my calculator. So I'm going to type in 18 numerator, 25 denominator, simplify, and it says 18 over 25, which is what I put in, so I know that's my smallest answer. Make sure you write it in your answer box, 18/25. All right, let's try number 2. 2/9 plus 1/9. I know that since I'm adding, my denominators need to be the same, and they are 9 and 9. So my denominator's not going to change. I need to think how many ninths. 2/9 plus 1/9 is 3/9. And there we go. Now I know I need to simplify my answer, and I know I can divide by the whole 3 over 3 to get 1/3 as a simplified answer. Since it has a 1 in the numerator and it's a unit fraction, I know that's as simplified as it gets, and my answer is 1/3. Number 3, 6/10 plus 38 hundredths. Since I'm adding, I know my denominators have to be the same. 10 and 100 are not the same, so I'm going to turn my smaller denominator, 10, into my bigger denominator, 100. So to do that, 610 times some whole gets me a denominator of 100. I know 10 times 10 equals 100. To make an equivalent fraction, I have to multiply by the same number in the denominator and the numerator to make a whole. So I'll multiply by 10 over 10. 6 times 10 equals 60, and I get 60 hundredths. So I can change 6/10 to 60 hundredths. I can add 38 hundredths, and I can do mental math to get 60 plus 38 equals 98. Since I'm adding, my denominator stays the same. It's 98 hundredths. And now I want to simplify that because that's a really big fraction. So 98 is a multiple of 2, so is 100. So I'm going to divide by 2 over 2. When I do 98 divided by 2, I get 49. When I do 100 divided by 2, I get 50. I know 2 isn't going to work again because 49 isn't a multiple of 2. I can't think of another number. I know 7 times 7 will be 49, but I can't think of 7 times anything that would be 50. So I'm guessing this is as simplified as I can get it, but I always want to double check in my calculator just to make sure. 49 numerator, 50 denominator, simplify, and it says the same thing, 49 50ths, so that is going to be my answer. Number 4, 9/10 minus 2/5. I'm subtracting, so I know my denominators have to be the same. 10 and 5 are not the same, so I'm going to need to make an equivalent fraction. I know I can take the denominator 5 and change it into the bigger denominator 10. So I'm going to do 2/5. I'm going to multiply by a whole to get a denominator of 10. I know 5 times 2 equals 10. To make an equivalent fraction, I have to multiply by a whole, so I'll have to put 2 in the numerator. Then I can multiply 2 times 2 to get 4 4/10. Your secret word is balloon. B-A-L-L-O-O-N, balloon. Make sure you follow directions and write it in all capital letters. 9/10 isn't what I changed because that's the denominator I want, so I'll rewrite that. I'm subtracting 4/10. If I do 9/10 minus 4/10, I get 5/10. Oh, and I know that I can do 5, I can divide by the whole of 5, because 5 divided by 5 equals 1, and 10 divided by 5 equals 2, and I can get an answer of 1/2. I don't have to simplify because it's a unit fraction, 1/2, so I'm going to put my answer as 1/2. On the back, number 5, 72 hundredths minus 12 hundredths. I'm subtracting, so my denominators have to be the same. 100 and 100 are the same denominator, so I don't need to make an equivalent fraction. I can just subtract. 72 minus 12, either use your calculator or mental math or do a problem off to the side, but 72 minus 12 equals 60. Since my denominator isn't going to change, it is 60 hundredths. I can see that both of these end in a 0, so that means they're both multiples of 10. So to simplify, I can divide by 10 over 10, and 60 divided by 10 equals 6, and 100 divided by 10 equals 10, and then I get 6/10. I can see that those also can be divided by 2 over 2 to get it even smaller. 6 divided by 2 equals 3, 10 divided by 2 equals 5, and I get an answer of 3/5. To double check that that's my smallest simplified fraction, type in your calculator, 3 numerator 5 denominator, simplify, equals, you get 3/5. That's as small as it goes, so I can put it for my answer. Number 6, 3/12 plus 2/6. When I'm adding, my denominators have to be the same. 12 and 6 are not the same, so I'm going to have to make an equivalent fraction. I know I can turn my smaller denominator 6 into my bigger denominator 12. So if I do 2/6 times some whole to get an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 12, I know 6 times 2 equals 12, so I need to multiply by a whole. 2 times 2 equals 4, and I get 4/12. 3/12 is going to stay the same. I'm going to add not 2/6 now, but I'm going to add the equivalent fraction 4/12. Now my denominators are the same, so I can just add my numerators. 3 plus 4 equals 7/12. All right, to simplify, I can't think of 2 times nothing is going to get me to 7. I don't know if I can simplify this one or not. I think it might be simplified already, but let's check in our calculator. 7, numerator, 12, denominator, simp. Oh, 7/12. Nice, I don't have to simplify for this one. I can just write the answer, 7/12. Number 7, 5/10 minus 2/10. I'm subtracting, so my denominators have to be the same. They are 10 and 10, so I just need to figure out how many tenths. 5 tenths minus 2 tenths equals 3 tenths. To simplify, 2 wouldn't work because 2 times nothing is going to get me to 3. I could divide by 3 over 3, but 3 times nothing is going to get me to 9. So I think this is my most simplified answer. I'm just going to double check it. 3 numerator, 10 denominator, simplify, and it's 3 tenths. I don't have to simplify that one either. Nice, 3 tenths. All right, number 8. 4/12 minus 1/6. I am subtracting, so I know I need common denominators that are the same. Right now, 12 and 6 are not the same, so I'm going to have to make an equivalent fraction. I know I can turn the denominator 6 into the denominator 12, so let's take 1/6, multiply it by a whole to change the denominator to 12. I know 6 times 2 equals 12, so I can multiply by the whole, 2 over 2. 1 times 2 equals 2, and I get 2/12. So 4/12 stays the same. I'm going to subtract 2/12. Now that my denominators are the same, I can subtract the numerators to find out how many 12ths. 4/12 minus 2/12 equals 2/12. Here's a bonus. Draw a balloon with 1 string. I can see that I'm going to need to simplify this fraction, so I'll divide by the whole 2 over 2 to get 1/6. Since I have a 1 in my numerator, I know it's a unit fraction, and it can't be simplified any further. So my answer is 1/6. All right, one more, number 9. 3 tenths minus 15 100ths. I'm subtracting, so my denominators have to be the same. 10 and 100 are not the same, so I'm going to need to make an equivalent fraction. I'm going to check to see if I can turn my smaller denominator, 10, into my bigger denominator, 100, and I know that I can do that, so I'll take 3 tenths. I'll multiply by a whole to get a denominator of 100. I know 10 times 10 equals 100, so I can multiply by the whole, 10 over 10. 3 times 10 equals 30, and I get 30 hundredths. So I'll change 3 tenths to 30 hundredths. I'll subtract 15 hundredths. Since my denominators are the same, I can subtract my numerators to find out how many hundredths I have. 30 minus 15 equals 15 hundredths. That's pretty big, so I'm going to simplify it. I know 15 and 100 are both multiples of 5. So if I divide by 5 over 5, I would get a 3 in the numerator and a 20 in the denominator. 3 isn't a multiple of 2, so I can't divide by 2. If I try dividing by 3, nothing times 3 gets me to 20. So that must be my most simplified fraction. Just to double check, 3 numerator, 20 denominator in the calculator, hit simplify. Oh, and it says 3/20ths, so I'm good with my answer of 3/20ths. Good luck on your test tomorrow. You'll do great.